My name is Brandon Eckhart. I'm the Inspector Instructor First Sergeant for the United States Marine Corps.
My name is Daryl Bartek. I have served in the United States Air Force.
I am Petty Officer 2nd Class Manuel Bernal of the United States Navy Reserve.
I am Mark Cody. I'm a Major in the Iowa Army National Guard.
I'm Major General Tim Orr. I'm the Adjutant General for the Iowa National Guard.
My name is Terry Branstead. I served in the United States Army. I served back during the period of the draft, and now we have a much smaller military.
I never thought it could work over a sustained period of time, but especially out of the Midwest, there's just some patriotic people and they believe in their country, and we are continuing to support the war effort today with all volunteers.
It's kind of a heritage for me. My father was a member of my unit actually back in the 90s, and my grandfather was in World War II. My great-grandfather was in World War I.
Today, more than 40% of troops are from reserve and guard units.
So that's effectively saying 40% of our military comes from the private sector.
These are hometown heroes who put their lives at risk and their careers on hold to serve our country. Community support is critical.
Nothing's worse on a soldier than to be deployed thousands of miles away, actually tens of thousands of miles away, and they get word that something's not going right at home. Well, that's a dangerous situation, not only to the soldier himself, but to the teammates, because he's not focused on what he needs to be focused on.
You know, without knowing that you have a job when you get home, with like 6 months left of your tour, of a 12-month tour, you have to start focusing on finding a job when you get back.
What I think is probably the more critical piece of a deployment is the reintegration.
And so it's critically important for employers to recognize that they're part of the mission.
I had a group of co-workers that rallied around a cause that I haven't seen before. I'm one person out of a 14,000 employee company. They clearly rallied around a cause, from my coworkers to my first line leaders to their leaders. And I think it happens in small segments. You know, the term, it takes a village. I was surrounded by a really good village.
Everybody just kind of stepped up and did their particular part, and we didn't miss a beat. And there was no complaining, no anything. Everybody was more than willing to help and step up in any way, shape, or form.
The little things truly make a difference. And this is Fort Iowa. And when you look at Fort Iowa, when we deploy a unit, we touch almost every community in the state of Iowa. And we don't have the support mechanisms that an active duty unit might have at a base. And so I have to count on the communities, and I have to count on our employers.
Currently, I'm the administrative officer for a squadron in the state of Iowa, which translates into essentially an HR director for about a 500-person company. I am not currently employed. I'm looking for something that I can use the skills and experiences that I've gotten through the military in the civilian working market.
Just because you don't see specifically the requirements you might be looking for as an employer, that you need to open your mind up a little bit and say, maybe we can make this work.
You know, and I had a big issue in learning how to phrase my experiences in a way that employers would understand.
You're talking about individuals that number one are drug-free, two are physically fit.
Leadership, discipline, adaptable, they're punctual, the maturity, and their attitude.
So the vast majority of the military personnel serving in the armed forces serve in roles that are equivalent to the civilian workforce. And because the military is a self-sustaining entity, we have our finance sections, we have our law section, we have public affairs, you know, personnel and administrative management, operations.
The fact that they served ought to give them a little bit of a head up.
What I noticed is all that training that we're doing on the military side was also happening in the civilian side, and they were matching some skill sets.
And so just learning how to learn in any environment and succeed and adapt.
I mean, there's a lot of similarities between the job I have today in terms of leadership and the leadership responsibilities I've had throughout my military career. It's just going to be critical that hiring managers take into account the fact that we have to be cognizant of the fact that military folks who write resumes may not necessarily write the resumes to the jobs they're writing from the past that they have. This company took a chance on a veteran, and we've both been mutually satisfied, I hope.
Returning Guard, Reserve, and active duty military are assets to our community and your business. Separating fact from fiction is critical to the ongoing support and employment of our military veterans. ESGR and the Iowa Workforce Development are here to help.
As a volunteer now for the ESGR, it's helped keep me involved in doing whatever we can as an employer to help educate other employers.
ESGR, even though they do, how should I say, they are a proponent for the individual soldiers, but they're also locked in and communicating with employers too. A lot of times the soldier needs to be schooled as well as the employer on what the proper procedures are, and they can help mediate and mitigate some of the stress of separation as well as reintegration.
I was at a homecoming this summer of the National Guard, and one of the young officers who I personally knew, I asked if he had a job when he returned. And he said, upon my return, I'm planning on spending a couple months working with my dad just to get my head straight before I go out and seek employment. And I think what that can cause is what appears to be a lengthy unemployment period, when in fact it was just his way of dealing with returning from deployment and wanting to make sure that when he sought a position that he was fully prepared to engage.
Well, we've usually had a meeting with them to sit down and talk and ask them just, how much time do you want? We're willing to work with them.
And then we had to realize, okay, he'd been gone for quite some time, so how are we going to acclimate him back into the business? So we set up a training plan and a schedule for him. Our main goal was to set him up for success.
Because of my job in the Marine Corps, what the minimum requirements that they have to meet are. I understand the USERA laws and so forth. It's always very refreshing to see people who don't just do exactly what the law prescribes that they have to do, but they're willing to go the extra mile.
We all want to help. Start by giving military applicants a second look. Examine your employment policies. Support your employees' right to join the Guard and Reserve. And support Guard and Reserve employees and their families before, during, and after deployment.
Everybody has a vested interest in the defense of our country, and employers are very much a part of that.
This is an effort that's going to take, if you will, all corporate America to get behind this. This is just the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for the country. It's the right thing to do for yourself as an employer, and it's the right thing to do for our returning veterans.
And so when you look at the future of our children, the young children that we have growing up, we have what every generation gets because of those that serve.
But everybody that serves takes the risks, and the least that we can do is to make sure that we support them and their families during this time, and that we also do all we can to see that they have job opportunities available here in Iowa once they return.
But I would have no reservations whatsoever about having to go through it again. They as individuals are helping protect this country. It makes everything else pale in comparison.
Knowing that the people that we work for in our civilian communities back us, support us, we'll do anything that you ask.
I'd like to say thank you to all employers that have supported military members and for their future contribution.
We couldn't not have done what we've done over the last 10 years without them.
To this day, the military uniform is still the finest suit I've ever worn.